How you doing, folks? I've made this video today because I could not find a similar video on the internet, and it's a video about replacing the impulse jewel on a pocket watch, and it's placing the impulse jewel into the roller table and shellacking it in place. The roller table with the impulse jewel is moved by the pallet fork of the watch, and it in turn moves the balance, which has the hairspring on it, which times the watch. This is a tricky procedure or process. What I have here is let me see if I can get a close-up here at all, but I've got the you can look at what I have here. I have both the I'll just use my little tool here. Right there is the jewel itself, and right next to the jewel is the roller table, and it's got the world's smallest hole on it. And I'm going to zoom in here, and what you do is you place the very small jewel into the very small hole, and you put it in place with a very small flake of shellac. And then to do this, you have to grab the roller table with this tool, and this tool opens up at the mouth, right? So it has a mouth that opens up that grabs the roller table, and then there's heat applied to the end of this tool. Kind of looks like a dinosaur's head, and the heat transfers to the mouth of the tool, and then to the roller table here. And then when the roller table is hot enough, the flake of shellac will melt, and the jewel can be placed into the roller table, and then you can align it and line up align the jewel again so that it is vertical. So that's the process. This is the first time I've done this, so I'm going to try not to swear, because this is a very difficult procedure. So because this jewel is so small, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little circle around the jewel on my mat here so I don't lose it. So, and make sure I keep that jewel in the center of that circle until I need it. The other thing is not to sneeze or blow air or anything. These jewels, they'll fly, and then you have to wait a week to get another one or so. So I'm also using a little sticky device here that probably needs to be cleaned off a bit, but it's much easier to pick things up with this than it is to pick things up with tweezers. So I use this to pick things up, and then hopefully the glue that's on the end of this little sticky device isn't going to cause any problems with the installation. So I'm going to just adjust this here. If you see some writing on the side, I tend to just write things on the mat, like size of crystals and stem sizes and all that. So, and this mark here I put here just to give me an idea of reference for if I'm videotaping something. Usually I videotape something in case I have to repeat the process, and I got a video record of what I've done, and then it's a lot easier to repeat it. So now I've got to put the roller table into this tool here. Now I don't actually know the technique for doing this, so I'm going to be inventing things as I go along. Hopefully they work. There's a groove on the inside of this tool. I don't know if things will focus here, but on the inside of the tool, kind of right in there, and on this side and this side, there's a groove that actually fits the roller table, which I find pretty amazing. So step 2 is to put the roller table into this. Now I know that this shiny side up, so the jewel has to poke out the shiny side. So I probably want to heat it on this side so I can put some shellac on there, and then allow the shellac to melt through the hole, and then put the jewel in the hole. I think that might work. So it's all one big guess right now. So what I have to do is make sure that the hole for the jewel is facing outward when I put this in the device. Okay, the next step here is to put this roller table into the tool, and I don't want this roller table to go flying, because that I will lose it for sure. So I have to be very careful when I do this. and make sure that the roller table is in fact in the device. Now it is in there, but it's rotated just a bit, so I'm going to have to turn it a bit. There. Now the roller table, it looks like to be in the device, so if you can see that, it looks like it's in the two little grooves in the mouth of this device. So the roller table is secure in there now. Hopefully it doesn't fly out because it is caught in the grooves. And I've got the shiny side up and the other side down. So I'm going to assume that for now that I will be installing the jewel on this side after I apply some heat here. So first thing I'm going to do is actually get a flake of shellac and put it on top. So I have a very large piece of shellac here, and I'm going to try to break off a very small piece to put right over the jewel hole. So I'm going to hold the shellac down with a toothpick, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure with the tweezers and see if I can break a piece off. So there, the piece just broke off. And even this little tiny piece was probably too big. So I'm going to hold the end of that with some tweezers, like so, and I'm going to break off another piece. There we go. So now I have a very small piece of shellac. It's kind of squared off. I think I've zoomed in as much as I can zoom in here, but I've got the world's smallest piece of shellac. I think I'm going to hold it again and break off a little tiny bit more, because you don't want too much shellac, because if you do, you'll end up filling the hole right up, and it won't serve the purpose of the shellac melting into the hole. So then I take the piece of shellac and put it right over the hole. Try to do that anyway. I think the use of a toothpick is good here. I drop the piece of shellac. So as I was saying, I think to my wife that I probably do a lot of swearing when I'm doing this, because it's so tricky to do. So there's the shellac, the piece of shellac there. So I'm going to melt this on, because I don't think this is a D-shaped jewel, but the hole is round, so I believe I need to have some shellac in that hole before I try to apply the jewel to the hole. And this is going to be really tricky, so I'm probably going to change my eyepiece so I can look up close. So I've got that piece of shellac sitting on top of the hole, and I've got a few other little pieces I'm just going to move out of the way. And then I'm going to apply some heat to the end to see if that shellac will melt a bit. So I'm going to turn this off. So now that I've got the hole has got shellac in it, I'm going to heat up the shellac again indirectly, or the roller table indirectly, till it loosens up enough for me to put the jewel in. This is a very difficult job. I'm going to grab this jewel and turn it. So I think I'm going to heat it up a bit more. I put some shellac in a tray here, so I'm going to heat this up. Heat up the tray until the shellac melts. There, it melted in like 2 seconds flat. I'm going to put the tray down, probably burn my mat, and I'm going to pull away a string of shellac. There we go. There we go. I've broken the string of shellac. And now I have this really long, thin piece of shellac that you probably can't see, but I will then touch this on top of the jewel once I've heated it up and see if that shellac gets sucked into the jewel hole. I think I have the jewel in place. I don't know if it's solid or not. That's the other test I gotta do at some point in time, but see, there's the jewel there. And it's in the hole, and it's in place. I don't know if it's long enough. I don't know if it's solid. But that was my first attempt at putting a jewel, an impulse jewel, into a roller table. So that was a hell of a job. So there it is there. It's really small. You can see that.